Black Elk speaks.
These are the words of Black Elk. My friend, I am going to tell you the story of my life. And if it were only the story of my life, I think I would not tell it. For what is one man that he should make much of his winters, even when they bend him like a heavy snow? So many other men have lived and shall live that story, to be grass upon the hills. It is a story of all life that is wakan, and is good to tell, and of us two-leggeds sharing in it, with the four-leggeds and the wings of the air, and all green things. For these are children of one mother, and their father is one spirit. It is the story of a mighty vision given to a man too weak to use it, of a wakan tree that should have flourished in a people's heart, with flowers and singing birds, and now is withered, and of a people's dream that died in bloody snow. But if the vision was true and mighty, as I know it is true and mighty yet, for such things are of the Spirit, and it is in the darkness of their eyes that men get lost. So I know that it is a good thing I am going to do, and because no good thing can be done by any one man alone, I will first make an offering and send a voice to the Spirit of the world, that it may help me to be true. Now I light the sacred chanupa, and after I have offered it to the powers that are one power, and set forth a voice to them, we shall smoke together, offering the mouthpiece first of all to the one above. So I send a voice. Hey, 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 hey. Grandfather, Great Spirit, you have been always, and before you no one has been. There is no other one to pray to but you. You yourself, everything that you see, everything has been made by you. Hear me, four quarters of the world, a relative I am. Give me the strength to walk the soft earth, a relative to all that is. Give me the eyes to see and the strength to understand, that I may be like you. With your power only can I face the winds. This is my prayer, hear me. The voice I have sent is weak, yet with earnestness I have sent it. Hear me. It is finished. Heshetu Allah. Now, my friend, let us smoke together, so that there may be only good between us. I was born in the moon of the popping trees, on the little Powder River, in the winter when the four crows were killed. I am a Lakota of the Ogallala band. My father's name was Black Elk, and his father before him bore the name, and the father of his father, so that I am the fourth to bear it. He was a medicine man, and so were several of his brothers. Also, he and the great crazy horse's father were cousins, having the same grandfather. My mother's name was White Cow Seas. Her father was called Refuse to Go, and her mother Plenty Eagle Feathers. I was 3 years old when my father's right leg was broken in the Battle of the 100 Slain. From that wound he limped until the day he died. He is buried here in these hills. I can remember that winter of the 100 Slain, as a man may remember some bad dream he dreamed when he was little. But I cannot tell just how much I heard when I was bigger and how much I understood when I was little. It is like some fearful thing in a fog, for it was a time when everything seemed troubled and afraid. I had never seen a washishu then and did not know what one looked like. But everyone was saying that the washishus were coming, and that they were going to take our country and rub us all out, and that we should all have to die fighting. It was the washishus who got rubbed out in that battle. But 100 washishus was not much if there were others, and others without number, where those came from. When I was older, I learned what the fighting was about that winter and the next summer. Up on the Medicine Fork, the washishus had found much of the yellow metal that they worship and that makes them crazy, and they wanted to have a road up through our country to the place where the yellow metal was, But my people did not want the road. It would scare the buffalo and make them go away. And also, it would let the other Washishus come in like a river. They told us that they wanted only to use a little land, as much as a wagon would take between the wheels. But our people knew better. And when you look about you, now you can see what it is they wanted. Once we were happy in our own country, and we were seldom hungry. For then the two-legged and the four-leggeds lived together like relatives, and there was plenty for them and for us. But the Washishus came, and they have made little islands for us and other little islands for the four-leggeds. And always these islands are becoming smaller, for around them surges the gnawing flood of the Washishu, and it is dirty with lies and greed. And so when the soldiers came and built themselves a town of logs on the piney fork of the Powder, my people knew they meant to have their road and take our country and maybe kill us all when they were strong enough. Crazy Horse was only about 19 years old then, and Red Cloud was still our great chief. In the moon of the changing seasons, he called together all the scattered bands of the Lakota for a big council on the Powder River. And when we went on the warpath against the soldiers, a horseback could ride through our villages from sunrise until the day was above his head. So far did our camp stretch along the valley of the river, for many of our friends, the Sheila and the Blue Clouds, had come to help us fight. My friend Fire Thunder here, who is older than I, was in that fight, and he can tell you how it was.
Fire Thunder speaks.
I was 16 years old when this happened, and we had moved over to the mouth of Pino Creek. We started out on horseback just about sunrise, riding up the creek toward the soldiers' town on the Piney, for we were going to attack it. The sun was about halfway up when we stopped at the place where the Washishus road came down a steep, narrow ridge and crossed the creek. It was a good place to fight, so we sent some men ahead to coax the soldiers out. We divided into two parts and hid in the gullies and waited. After a long while, we heard a shot up over the hill, and we knew the soldiers were coming. Soon we saw our men coming back, and some of them were walking and leading their horses, so that the soldiers would think they were worn out. Then the men who had sent ahead came running down the road between us, and the soldiers on horseback followed, shooting. When they came to the flat at the bottom of the hill, the fighting began all at once. I had a sorrel horse, and just as I was going to get on him, the soldiers turned around and began to fight their way back up the hill. I had a six-shooter that I had traded for, and also a bow and arrows. When the soldiers started back, I held my sorrel with one hand and began killing them with the six-shooter, for they came close to me. There were many bullets, but there were more arrows, so many that it was like a cloud of grasshoppers all above and around the soldiers. And our people, shooting across, hit each other. The soldiers were falling all the while they were fighting back up the hill, and their horses got loose. Many of our people chased the horses, but I was not after horses. I was after Washishus. When the soldiers got on top, there were not many of them left, and they had no place to hide. They were fighting hard. We were told to crawl up on them, and we did. When we were close, someone yelled, "Let us go. This is a good day to die. Think of the helpless ones at home." Then we all cried, "Hokkahe," and rushed at them. I was young then and quick on my feet, and I was one of the first to get in among the soldiers. They got up and fought very hard until not one of them was alive. Dead men and horses and wounded Indians were scattered all the way up the hill, and their blood was frozen, for a storm had come up and it was very cold and getting colder all the time. We left all the dead lying there, for the ground was solid, and we picked up our wounded and started back, but we lost most of them before we reached our camp.
Black Elk continues.
I am quite sure that I remember the time when my father came home with a broken leg that he got from killing so many Washishus. It must be the fear that I remember most. All this time I was not allowed to play very far away from our teepee, and my mother would say, "If you are not good, the Washishus will come get you." We must have broken camp at the mouth of the Pino soon after the battle, and we were going away from where the soldiers were. I do not know where we went, but it was west. It was a hungry winter, for the deep snow made it hard to find the elk, and also many of the people went snowblind. We wandered a long time. When it was summer again, we were camping on the Rosebud, and I did not feel so much afraid, because the Washishus seemed farther away, and there was peace there in the valley, and there was plenty of meat. But all the boys from 5 or 6 years up were playing war. The little boys would gather together from the different bands of the tribe and fight each other with mud balls that they threw with willow sticks. And the big boys played the game called throwing them off their horses, which is a battle all but the killing, and sometimes they got hurt. When I was older, I too often played this game. We were always naked when we played it, just as warriors are when they go into battle, if it is not too cold, because they are swifter without clothes. I was still too little to play war that summer, but I can remember watching the other boys, and I thought that when we all grew up and were big together, maybe we would kill all the Washishus and drive them far away from our country. It was in the moon, when the cherries turned black, that all the people were talking again about a battle, and our warriors came back with many wounded. It was the attacking of the wagons, and it made me afraid again, for we did not win that battle as we did the other one, and there was much mourning for the dead. Fire Thunder was in that fight too, and he can tell you how it was that day.
Fire Thunder speaks.
It was very bad. There is a wide flat prairie with hills around it, and in the middle of this the Washishus had put the boxes of their wagons in a circle, so that they could keep their mules there at night. There were not many Washishus, but they were lying behind the boxes, and they shot faster than they ever shot at us before. We thought it was some new medicine of great power that they had, for they shot so fast that it was like tearing a blanket. Afterwards I learned that it was because they had new guns that they loaded from behind, and this was the first time they used these guns. We came on after sunrise. There were many of us, and we meant to ride right over them and rub them out. But our ponies were afraid of the ring of fire the guns of the Washishus made, and would not go over. We tried hard, but we could not do it, and there were dead warriors and horses piled all around the boxes and scattered over the plain. Then we left our horses in a gulch and charged on foot, but it was like green grass withering in a fire. So we picked up our wounded and went away. I do not know how many of our people were killed, but there were very many. It was bad.
Black Elk continues.
I was 4 years old then, and I think it must have been the next summer that I first heard the voices. It was a happy summer, and nothing was afraid, because word came from the Washishus that there would be peace, and that they would not use the road anymore, and that all the soldiers would go away. The soldiers did go away, and their towns were torn down, and they made a treaty with Red Cloud that said our country would be ours as long as grass should grow and water flow. You can see that it is not the grass and the water that have forgotten. I was out playing alone when I first heard the voices. It was like somebody calling me, and I thought it was my mother, but there was nobody there. This happened more than once, and always made me afraid, so that I ran home. It was when I was 5 years old that my grandfather made me a bow and some arrows. The grass was young, and I was horseback. A thunderstorm was coming from where the sun goes down, and just as I was riding into the woods along a creek, there was a kingbird sitting on a limb. This was not a dream, it happened, and I was going to shoot at the kingbird with the bow my grandfather made, when the bird spoke and said, "The clouds all over are one-sided. Perhaps It meant that all the clouds were looking at me, and then it said, "Listen, a voice is calling you." Then I looked up at the clouds, and two men were coming, head first like arrows slanting down, and as they came, they sang a sacred song, and the thunder was like drumming. I will sing it for you. Behold, a sacred voice is calling you. All over the sky, a sacred voice is calling. But when they were very close to me, they wheeled about toward where the sun goes down, and suddenly they were geese. Then they were gone, and the rain came with a big wind and a roaring. I did not tell this vision to anyone. I liked to think about it, but I was afraid to tell it. What happened after that until the summer I was 9 years old is not a story. There were winters and summers, and they were good, for the Washishus had made their iron road along the Platte and traveled there. This had cut the buffalo herd in two, but those that stayed in our country with us were more than could be counted, and we wandered without trouble in our land. Now and then the voices would come back when I was out alone, like someone calling me, but what they wanted me to do I did not know. This did not happen very often, and when it did not happen, I forgot about it, for I was growing taller and was riding horses now and could shoot prairie chickens and rabbits with my bow. The boys of my people began very young to learn the ways of men, and no one taught us. We just learned by doing what we saw, and we were warriors at a time when boys now are like girls. It was the summer when I was 9 years old that a voice came and said, "It is time. Now they are calling you." The next day I was very sick. Both my legs and both my arms were swollen badly, and my face was all puffed up. I was lying in our teepee, and my mother and father were sitting beside me. I could see out through the opening, and there two men were coming from the clouds, head first like arrows slanting down, and I knew they were the same that I had seen before. They came down and said, "Hurry, come, your grandfathers are calling you." Then they turned and left the ground like arrows slanting upward from the bow. When I got up to follow, my legs did not hurt me anymore, and I was very light. I went outside the teepee, and a little cloud came and stooped and took me flying very fast. And when I looked down, I could see my mother and my father, and I felt sorry to be leaving them. Then there was nothing but the air and the swiftness of the little cloud that bore me and those two men still leading up to where white clouds were piled like mountains on a wide blue plain, and in them thunder beings lived and leaped and flashed. Now suddenly there was nothing but a world of cloud, and we three were there alone in the middle of a great white plain with snowy hills and mountains staring at us. And it was very still, but there were whispers. Then the two men spoke together, and they said, "Behold him, the being with 4 legs." I looked and saw a bay horse standing there, and he began to speak. "Behold me," he said. "My life history you shall see." Then he wheeled about to where the sun goes down and said, "Behold them, their history you shall know." I looked, and there were 12 black horses, all abreast, with necklaces of buffalo hooves, and they were beautiful, but I was frightened, because their manes were lightning, and there was thunder in their nostrils. Then the bay horse wheeled to where the great white giant lives, and said, "Behold," and there were 12 white horses, all abreast. Their manes were flowing like a blizzard wind, and from their noses came a roaring, and all about them white geese soared and circled. Then the bay wheeled round to where the sun shines continually, and there 12 sorrel horses with necklaces of elk's teeth stood abreast, with eyes that glimmered like the daybreak star and manes of morning light. Then the bay wheeled once again to the place where you are always facing, and there stood 12 buckskins all abreast, with horns upon their heads, and manes that lived and grew like trees and grasses. And when I had seen all these, the bay horse said, Your grandfathers are having a council. These shall take you, so have courage. Make haste, the bay horse said, and we walked together side by side, while the blacks, the whites, the sorrels, and the buckskins followed, marching 4 by 4. Then, as we walked, there was a heaped-up cloud ahead that changed into a teepee, and a rainbow was the open door of it, and through the door I saw 6 old men sitting in a row, and they looked older than men can ever be, old like the hills, like the stars. And the oldest of the grandfathers spoke with a kind voice and said, Come right in and do not fear. Your grandfathers all over the world are having a council, and they have called you here to teach you. His voice was very kind, but I shook all over with fear, for I knew that these were not old men, but the powers of the world. I knew this and was afraid, until the first grandfather spoke again. Behold, where the sun goes down, the thunder beings you shall see, and have from them my power. And they shall take you to the high and lonely center of the earth, that you may see, even to the place where the sun continually shines. They shall take you there to understand. Now there was a wooden cup in his hand, and it was full of water, and in the water was the sky. Take this, he said. It is the power to make live, and it is yours. Now he had a bow in his hands. Take this, he said. It is the power to destroy, and it is yours. Then he pointed to himself and said, Look close at him who is your spirit now, for you are his body, and his name is Eagle Wing Stretches. And saying this, he got up very tall and started running toward where the sun goes down, and suddenly he was a black horse that stopped and turned and looked at me, and the horse was very poor and sick. His ribs stood out. Then the second grandfather, he of the north, arose with a herb of power in his hand and said, Take this and hurry. I took and held it toward the black horse. He fattened and was happy and came prancing to his place, and was the first grandfather sitting there. The second grandfather, he of the north, spoke again. Take courage, younger brother. On earth a nation you shall make live, for yours shall be the power of the white giant's wings, the cleansing wing. And now it was the third grandfather who spoke. He of where the sun shines continually. Take courage, younger brother, he said, for across the earth they shall take you. Then he pointed to where the daybreak star was shining, and beneath the star 2 men were flying. From them you shall have power, he said, from them who have awakened all the beings of the earth, with roots and legs and wings. And as he said this, he held in his hand a sacred chanupa, which had a spotted eagle outstretched upon the stem. And this eagle seemed alive, for it was poised and fluttering, and its eyes were looking at me. With this chanupa, the grandfather said, You shall walk upon the earth, and whatever sickens there you shall make well. And now the fourth grandfather spoke. He of the south, whence comes the power to grow. Younger brother, he said, with the powers of the 4 quarters you shall walk, your relative. Behold the living center of a nation. I shall give you, and with it many you shall save. And I saw that he was holding in his hand a bright red stick that was alive. And as I looked, it sprouted at the top and set forth branches, and on the branches many leaves came out and murmured. And in the leaves the birds began to sing. It shall stand in the center of the nation's circle, said the grandfather, a cane to walk with and a people's heart, and by your powers you shall make it blossom. Then when he had been still a little while, to hear the birds sing, he spoke again. Behold the earth. So I looked down and saw it lying like a hoop of peoples, and in the center bloomed the holy stick that was a tree, and where it stood there crossed two roads, a red one and a black. From where the giant lives to where you always face, the red road goes. The road of good, the grandfather said, and on it shall your nation walk. The black road goes from where the thunder beings live to where the sun continually shines. A fearful road, a road of troubles and of war. On this also you shall walk, and from it you shall have the power to destroy a people's foes. In 4 ascents you shall walk the earth with power. I think he meant that I should see 4 generations counting me, and now I am seeing the 3rd. Now the 5th grandfather spoke, the oldest of them all, the spirit of the sky. My boy, he said, I have sent for you, and you have come. My power you shall see. He stretched his arms and turned into a spotted eagle, hovering. Behold, he said, all the wings of the air shall come to you, and they and the winds and the stars shall be like relatives. You shall go across the earth with my power. Now I knew the 6th grandfather was about to speak. He who was the spirit of the earth, and I saw that he was very old, but more as men are old. I stared at him, for it seemed I knew him somehow, and as I stared he slowly changed, for he was growing backwards into youth, and when he had become a boy, I knew that he was myself, with all the years that would be mine at last. When he was old again, he said, My boy, have courage, for my power shall be yours, and you shall need it, for your nation on the earth will have great troubles. Come. He rose and tottered out through the rainbow door, and I followed on the bay horse. Now you shall walk the black road with ease, and as you walk, all the nations that have roots or legs or wings shall fear you. So I started riding toward the east, down the fearful road, and behind me came the horsebacks 4 abreast, the blacks, the whites, the sorrels, and the buckskins. And far away above the fearful road, the daybreak star was rising very dim. We came above a place where 3 streams made a big one, a source of mighty waters. And something terrible was there. Flames were rising from the water, and in the flames a blue man lived. The dust was floating all about him in the air. The grass was short and withered. The trees were wilting. 2-legged and 4-legged beings lay there, thin and panting, and wings too weak to fly. Then the riders all cried together, Eagle wing stretches, hurry! And all the world was filled with voices of all kinds that cheered me. So I charged down upon the blue man. I had the cup of water in one hand, and in the other was the bow that turned into a spear as the bay and I swooped down. And the spear's head was sharp lightning. It stabbed the blue man's heart, and as it struck I could hear the thunder rolling, and many voices that cried, Unhe, meaning I had killed. The flames died. The trees and grasses were not withered any more, and murmured happily together, and every living thing cried in gladness with whatever voice it had. You see, I had been riding with the storm clouds, and had come to earth as rain, and it was the drought that I had killed with the power that the 6th grandfather gave me. So we were riding on the earth now, down along the river, flowing full from the source of waters, and soon I saw ahead the circled village of a people in the valley. And a voice said, Behold, a nation, it is yours. Make haste, eagle wing stretches. Behold the circle of the nations hoop, for it is holy, being endless, and thus all powers shall be one power in the people without end. Now they shall break camp and go forth upon the red road. and your grandfathers shall walk with them." So the people broke camp and took the good road, with the white wing on their faces. And as we went, the voice behind me said, "Behold, a good nation walking in a Wakan manner, in a good land." Then I looked up and saw that there were 4 ascents ahead, and these were generations I should know. Now we were on the first ascent, and all the land was green. Then we started on the second ascent, marching as before, and still the land was green, but it was getting steeper. And as I looked ahead, the people changed into elks and buffalo, and all 4-footed beings, and even into fowls, all walking in a Wakan manner on the good red road together. And I myself was a spotted eagle soaring over them. Then all the marching animals grew restless and afraid that they were not what they had been, and began sending forth voices of trouble, calling to their chiefs. I saw that leaves were falling from the Wakan tree, and the voice said, "Behold your nation, and remember what your 6 grandfathers gave you, for thenceforth your people walk in difficulties." Then the people broke camp again, and saw the black road before them, towards where the sun goes down, and black clouds coming, and they did not want to go, but could not stay. And as they walked the third ascent, all the animals and fowls that were the people ran here and there, for each one seemed to have his own little vision that he followed and his own rules. And all over the universe I could hear the winds at war like wild beasts fighting. And when we reached the summit of the third ascent and camped, the nation's hoop was broken. Then when the people were getting ready to begin the 4th ascent, I looked down. The people were all changed back to human, and they were thin, their faces sharp, for they were starving. Their ponies were only hide and bones, and the Wakan tree was gone. I saw a sacred man who was painted red all over, and he lay down and rolled, and when he got up, it was a fat buffalo standing there. And where the buffalo stood, a sacred herb sprang up. The herb grew and bore 4 blossoms on a single stem, while I was looking, a blue, a white, a scarlet, and a yellow, and the bright rays of these flashed to the heavens. I know now what this meant, that the buffalo were the gift of a good spirit and were our strength. But we should lose them, and from the same good spirit we must find another strength. For the people all seemed better when the herb had grown and blossomed. Now I was on my bay horse again, because the horse is of the earth, and it was there my power would be used. Then a voice said, "Behold this day, for it is yours to make. Now you shall stand upon the center of the earth and see, for there they are taking you." The riders of the west, the north, the east, the south, took me to the highest mountain of them all, and around about beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I could tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in a Wakan manner the shapes of all things in the spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together, like one being. And I saw that the Wakan hoop of my people was one of many hoops that made one circle, wide as daylight and as starlight, and in the center grew one mighty flowering tree, to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was Wakan. Now 2 men were leading me, head first like arrows slanting upward, the 2 that brought me from the earth. Then I saw ahead the rainbow, flaming above the teepee, and I saw the 6 grandfathers sitting in a row, with their arms held toward me and their hands palms out. "He has triumphed," cried the 6 together, making thunder, and as I passed before them, each gave again the gift that he had given me before, the cup of water and the bow and arrows, the power to make live and to destroy, the white wing of cleansing and the healing herb, the wakan chanupa, the flowering stick, and each one spoke in turn from west to south, explaining what he gave as he had done before, and as each one spoke, he melted down into the earth and rose again, and as each did this, I felt nearer to the earth. Then the oldest of them all said, "Grandson, all over the universe you have seen. Now you shall go back with the power to the place from whence you came, and it shall happen that hundreds shall be wakan, hundreds shall be flames. Behold." I looked below and saw my people there, and all were well and happy except one, and he was lying like the dead, and that one was myself. Then the oldest grandfather sang his song. There is someone lying on earth in a wakan manner. There is someone on earth he lies. In a wakan manner I have made him to walk. Now the teepee, built and roofed with cloud, began to sway back and forth as in a wind, and the flaming rainbow door was growing dimmer. I could hear voices of all kinds crying from outside. Eagle Wing stretches is coming forth, behold him. And as I walked alone, I heard the sun singing, and as it rose, it sang like this. With visible face I am appearing, in a wakan manner I appear. For the greening earth a pleasantness I make, the center of the nation's hoop I have made pleasant. The four-leggeds, the two-leggeds, I have made them to walk. The wings of the air I have made them to fly. With visible face I appear. My day I have made it wakan. I was all alone on a broad plain, with my feet upon the earth, alone but for the spotted eagle guarding me. I could see my people's village far ahead, and I walked very fast, for I was homesick now. Then I saw my own teepee, and inside I saw my mother and my father, bending over a sick boy. That was myself. And as I entered the teepee, someone was saying, "The boy is coming too. You had better give him some water." Then I was sitting up, and I was sad because my mother and my father didn't seem to know I had been so far away. When I got back to my father and mother and was sitting up there in our teepee, my face was still all puffed and my legs and arms were badly swollen. But I felt good all over and wanted to get right up and run around. My parents would not let me. They told me I had been sick 12 days, lying like dead all the while, and that whirlwind chaser, who was Standing Bear's uncle and a medicine man, had brought me back to life. I knew it was the grandfathers of the flaming rainbow teepee who had cured me, but I felt afraid to say so. Everybody was glad that I was living, but as I lay there thinking about the wonderful place where I had been and all that I had seen, I was very sad. For it seemed to me that everybody ought to know about it, but I was afraid to tell, because I knew that nobody would believe me. Little as I was, for I was only 9 years old. Also, and as I lay there thinking of my vision, I could see it all again and feel the meaning with a part of me like a strange power glowing in my body. But when the part of me that talks would try to make words for the meaning, it would be like fog and get away from me. I am sure now that I was then too young to understand it all, and that I only felt it. It was the pictures I remembered and the words that went with them, and even now I know that more was shown to me than I can tell. That evening of the day when I came back, Whirlwind Chaser, who had got a great name and a good horse for curing me, came over to our teepee. He sat down and looked at me a long time in a strange way, and then he said to my father, "Your boy there is sitting in a wakan manner. I do not know what it is, but there is something special for him to do. for just as I came in, I could see a power, like a light, all through his body. While he was looking hard at me, I wanted to get up and run away, for I was afraid he might look right into me and see my vision and tell it wrong. And then maybe all the people would think that I was crazy. The next morning, all the swelling had left my face and legs and arms, and I felt well as ever. But everything around me seemed strange, and as though it were far away. I remember that for 12 days after that I wanted to be alone, and it seemed I did not belong to my people. They were almost like strangers. I would be out alone away from the village and the other boys, and I would look around to the four quarters, thinking of my vision and wishing I could get back there again. One day during this time, I was out with the bow and arrows my grandfather had made for me, and as I walked along thinking of my vision, suddenly I felt funny. And for a little while it seemed that the bow and arrows were those that the first grandfather in the flaming rainbow teepee had given me. Then they were only those that Refused to Go had made, and I felt foolish and tried to make myself think it was all only a dream anyway. So I thought I would forget about it and shoot something. There was a bush and a little bird sitting in it. But just as I was going to shoot, I felt funny again and remembered that I was to be like a relative with the birds, so I did not shoot. Then I went on down toward a creek, feeling foolish because I had let the little bird go. And when I saw a green frog sitting there, I just shot him right away. But when I picked him up by the legs, I thought, now I have killed him, and it made me want to cry. We went on a big hunt after we had been at Willow Creek a while, and it helped me to quit thinking about my vision all the time. Everybody began sharpening knives and arrows and getting the best horses ready for the great making of meat. Then we started for where the buffalo were. The soldier band went first, riding 20 abreast, and everybody who dared go ahead of them would get knocked off his horse. They kept order, and everybody had to obey. After them came the hunters, riding 5 abreast. The people came up in the rear. Then the head man of the advisors went around, picking out the best hunters with the fastest horses. And to these he said, "Good young warriors, my relatives, your work I know is good. What you do is good always. So today you shall feed the helpless. Perhaps there are some old and feeble people without sons, or some who have little children and no man. You shall help these, and whatever you kill shall be theirs." This was a great honor for a young man. Then when we had come near to where the buffalo were, the hunters circled around them, and the cry went up as in a battle, "Hokkahe," which meant to charge. Then there was a great dust, and everybody shouted, and all the hunters went in to kill, every man for himself. Everybody was very happy.
Standing Bear speaks.
I remember that hunt, for before that time I had only killed a calf. I was 13 years old and supposed to be a man, so I made up my mind I'd get a yearling. I think I hit his heart, for he began to wobble as he ran, and blood came out of his nose. Hunters cried, "Yoo-ho!" once when they killed. But this was my first big buffalo, and I just kept on yelling, "Yoo-ho!" People must have thought I was killing a whole herd the way I yelled.